A worker in a nylon production facility attempted to manually straighten the nylon on a high-speed winding shaft. The tension and static electricity on the moving nylon instantly snagged his hand, dragging it into the nip point. Fortunately, a nearby colleague stayed calm and hit the emergency stop immediately, preventing a severe crushing injury. Moving webs capture hands instantly. Never touch the film or rollers during operation. Rely on automated edge guides and stop the machine for any manual adjustments. A worker was lowered into a deep excavation that lacked proper shoring or stabilization. Although he recognized the signs of a collapse and signaled for extraction, the soil gave way faster than the crane could lift him. The walls collapsed, burying him instantly under tons of earth. A trench without shoring is just a grave. Never enter an excavation deeper than 1.5 meters, 5 feet, unless it is properly sloped, shored, or shielded to withstand the immense pressure of the surrounding soil. Using an oil drum as a makeshift platform, a welder struck an arc while standing directly on the container. The heat or sparks ignited residual vapors inside, instantly detonating the drum. The blast launched him high into the air before he crashed violently onto the floor. A forklift operator lifted an unstable load while workers were dangerously positioned inside a nearby truck. The load shifted and fell, striking the workers and knocking one to the ground. In the ensuing panic, the operator leaped from the cab to help without neutralizing the vehicle. The unmanned forklift continued to roll, running over the operator who had tripped while exiting. Secure the machine before you act. Regardless of the emergency, always lower the forks, set the parking brake, and turn off the engine before exiting the cab to prevent a secondary tragedy. Securing a huge ship, a mooring rope came under immense tension while a worker stood in the dangerous snapback zone. Suddenly, the line parted, whipping back with explosive force. The recoil struck the man, sending him tumbling backward violently. A snapping rope is a silent killer. Identify and mark all snapback zones on the dock and never stand within the arc of a line under load. An employee in a sorting facility inadvertently placed a finger into a conveyor nip point while handling goods. Crucially, the emergency stop button was mounted out of arm's reach, leaving him trapped and helpless. In a panic, he attempted to yank his hand free against the moving belt, resulting in severe tearing injuries. Safety controls must be reachable in milliseconds. Install emergency pull cords along the entire length of conveyors and strictly guard all roller intake points to prevent entrapment. A crane operator swung a load without ensuring adequate clearance, causing the boom to strike a standing scaffold. The impact destroyed the structural integrity of the temporary platform. The scaffold collapsed instantly, sending the workers on top plummeting to the ground. Heavy equipment and working platforms must be separated. Always use a dedicated signalman, banksman, to guide lifts near structures and verify swing radius clearance before operations begin. Walking across a floor under construction, a worker stepped onto a scaffolding plank that was not fully supported. He unknowingly shifted his weight to the unsupported overhang, causing the loose board to tip like a seesaw. With no footing left, he plummeted from the height. A loose board is a trap door. Ensure all decking is fully secured or cleated. Plank overhangs must never exceed safe limits, usually 12 inches, 30 centimeters, to prevent tipping. A forklift operator lifted goods from a high, unsecured rack while the manager watched nearby. As the load shifted, the heavy goods plummeted from the height, crashing down exactly where the manager had just stood. He barely sprinted to safety before impact. Supervision requires a safe distance. Never stand in the drop zone of overhead lifts. Maintain a strict exclusion perimeter around high-stacking operations. The operator attempted to lift a massive metal block using a cable rated for a lower weight. The excessive tension caused a catastrophic tensile failure, snapping the line instantly. The heavy load plummeted, crushing the truck bed and narrowly missing the operator's feet. Rating limits are not suggestions. Reversing a forklift with a bulky load, an operator navigated a tight corner with limited visibility. He failed to see a colleague working in the blind spot. Suddenly, the unsecured goods shifted and toppled off the forks, crushing the nearby worker against the wall. The impact was devastating. If you can't see, don't move. Always exclude pedestrians from maneuvering zones and secure unstable loads before lifting. Taking a dangerous shortcut to save time, a man attempted to step over a rotating machine shaft. The spinning mechanism instantly snagged his loose shirt, violently jerking him off balance and into the equipment. He narrowly escaped death, suffering severe trauma from the fall. Shortcuts cut lives short. Never step over active machinery. Always use designated walkways and keep a safe distance from rotating parts. Stepping inside a massive press for maintenance, a technician relied on a spotter rather than cutting the power. Suddenly, the machine cycled, crushing him, while the outsider frantically fumbled for the emergency stop. The delay was fatal. A spotter cannot stop physics. Never enter machinery without performing lockout, tagout, LOTO to physically isolate energy. Emergency buttons are for accidents, not protection. A forklift transporting molten metal suffered a mechanical failure, causing the ladle to tip and spill its superheated contents across the factory floor. The spill created an immediate exclusion zone due to intense thermal radiation and the risk of splashing or explosions if the metal contacted moisture. Standard equipment fails under extreme heat. Always use purpose-built carriers with heat shielding for molten transport and strictly enforce a no pedestrian zone along the transport route. Workers attempted to lift a heavy load at an angle, using the crane to pull sideways rather than lift vertically. As the load broke contact with the ground, gravity forced it to swing violently to center itself under the boom. The unexpected horizontal momentum pinned the worker against a structure. Cranes lift up, they do not drag. Always center the hoist directly above the load's center of gravity to prevent deadly swings. Two workers attempted to secure a rock cutting machine without first stabilizing the massive workpiece. As they worked, the heavy rock shifted and toppled directly onto them. The impact was instantaneous and crushing. Unsecured loads are ticking time bombs. Always chock, block, and secure heavy materials before starting work, and never place your body in the line of fire of an unstable load. Riding a suspended concrete slab, a man descended into a deep, sandy pit. The excavation lacked shoring, and the crane's weight pressed dangerously on the edge. Suddenly, the unstable wall sheared off, burying him under tons of debris. The collapse was instant and fatal. Soil is heavy and unpredictable. Never ride a load and never enter a trench without proper shoring or shielding. A worker encountered a malfunction when a truck's moving platform failed to stop at its limit. Instead of engaging the emergency stop or cutting the power, he reacted with frustration, striking the handheld controller. This physical impact failed to break the circuit, causing the mechanism to over-travel and suffer a catastrophic structural collapse. A female worker, dangerously positioned on the moving platform, fell with the load. Percussive maintenance is not an emergency procedure. Always use the e-stop button for malfunctions and strictly forbid personnel from riding on cargo lifts or standing on moving loads. A worker accidentally ignited diesel fuel during machine reconditioning. Instead of retrieving a fire extinguisher, he panicked, blowing on the flames and then pouring water on the burning liquid. This dangerous reaction likely spread the fire, as water causes burning fuel to float and splash, intensifying the blaze. Water spreads oil fires. Never use water on liquid fuel fires, Class B. Always use a dry chemical or foam extinguisher to smother the flames. Attempting to lift a long concrete column from a truck, the crew misaligned the rigging points. This imbalance caused the massive pile to slip free and crash down. The worker narrowly dodged the impact while the heavy chain continued to swing dangerously overhead. Gravity exposes every mistake. Always locate the center of gravity, key, and ensure the load is perfectly balanced before hoisting. A worker, distracted by social interaction, leaned on the arm of a radial drill press for support. This shift in weight caused the unanchored, top-heavy machine to lose its balance and topple over. He narrowly dodged the falling equipment, avoiding a crushing injury. Machines are not leaning posts. All stationary machinery must be securely bolted to the floor to prevent tipping, and personnel should never touch equipment they are not actively operating. In a glass factory, a crew crowded a forklift while one man stood opposite to steady large sheets by hand. As the machine halted, inertia sent the heavy glass toppling forward. The man, powerless to stop the shifting weight, was instantly crushed underneath. Hands are not cargo straps. Always secure loads mechanically. Never stand in the fall zone or try to catch a falling load with your body. To speed up workflow, safety shields were removed from a vertical press. A worker was positioned in the blind spot of a crane, attempting to free a chain from beneath the heavy bucket. The operator, unable to see him, moved the machinery. The bucket struck the worker with crushing force. Never assume the operator sees you. Establish eye contact or use a signalman before approaching heavy equipment. Workers struggled to push a heavy mobile scaffold into an elevator. To gain better leverage, one man made the fatal decision to crawl underneath the frame to push from below. The structure suddenly collapsed under the strain, crushing him against the floor. Never place your body under a suspended load. Always dismantle scaffolding before transport and use proper material handling equipment instead of manual force. A worker entered the hazardous operating zone of a crane during a lift without a spotter to warn them or the operator. As the crane maneuvered the heavy U-shaped steel bars, the load shifted or was lowered onto the worker's leg. This severe injury occurred because no banksman, signal person, was present to enforce the exclusion zone and guide the operator. Cranes require a second set of eyes. Designated signalers are mandatory to clear the path. Never approach a load or stack until it is fully landed, stable, and the operator gives the all clear. In a factory, a worker in a wire factory reached inside a wire drawing machine to inspect the operation, ignoring the moving parts. Suddenly, the mechanism snagged his hand, violently pulling his entire body into the equipment. Co-workers frantically hit the emergency stop, but the rotational force was too fast. Rotating parts are relentless. Never bypass guards or touch moving equipment. Always lock out, tag out, LOTO before any intervention. A crane operator attempted to hoist a large steel column at a steep angle instead of a vertical lift. As the heavy load left the ground, gravity corrected the angle, causing the column to swing violently sideways. The uncontrolled steel beam struck a nearby worker with crushing force before he could retreat. Side loading creates a wrecking ball. Always center the hook directly over the load's center of gravity and use tag lines to control motion from a safe distance. In a factory, a worker bent over an active automated stamping line, positioning himself directly within the path of the machinery. Fixated on the stamping mechanism, he failed to notice the heavy frame cycling toward him. The moving structure struck him, trapping his body and throwing him to the floor in agony. Tunnel vision blinds you to danger. Maintain situational awareness and never lean over active equipment. If you must inspect closely, stop the machine first. A worker attempted to navigate a congested factory floor by stepping directly onto a rotating drive shaft. He lost his footing and, in a fatal reflex to break his fall, reached out and jammed his hands into the narrow gap between the spinning shaft. The friction instantly drew him into the machine, resulting in a catastrophic, fatal injury. Guards must cover the hazard, not create new ones. Rotating shafts must be completely enclosed to prevent contact or stepping, and aisles must be kept clear so workers never have to climb over machinery. A blockage halted the conveyor line at a high point. Instead of shutting down the system and using a ladder or walkway, the worker climbed directly onto the inclined belt to reach the stuck goods. As he struggled with the load, he lost his footing on the slick, unstable surface and fell backward, tumbling down the machine. Conveyors are for cargo, not people. Never climb on belts or rollers. A worker positioned himself between a suspended steel roll and a stationary stack to guide the landing. As the load settled, it shifted unexpectedly, closing the gap instantly. The massive roll pinned him against the stack, crushing him before the operator could react. Never position yourself in a pinch point. Always maintain a clear escape route and use taglines to guide loads from a safe distance. A worker reached in to grab a workpiece, looking away just as the technician also lost focus. The unguarded machine cycled instantly, clamping down on his arm with crushing force. The distraction proved costly. Convenience is not worth a limb. Never operate equipment with missing guards, and keep your eyes on the line of fire at all times. In a textile factory, a worker attempted to inspect a live electrical outlet without isolating the power source or using proper testing tools. As he made contact, the current instantly surged through him, causing severe muscle contractions that likely prevented him from letting go. Quick-thinking colleagues cut the main power immediately. A man stood near a truck that began to lose stability and tip. Instead of running away, he tried to steady the truck. The loose construction material spilled out instantly, crushing him beneath an avalanche of debris before the vehicle even fully overturned. Human strength cannot fight gravity. If equipment or loads begin to tip, clear the area immediately. Never attempt to catch or prop up failing heavy machinery. At a construction site, a worker bypassed safe egress protocols and jumped from a truck bed, causing him to fall onto the scaffolding structure below due to a lack of guardrails. The deafening noise on the construction site masked the sound of the impact, leaving his colleague standing inches away, completely unaware of the emergency. Noise creates a safety blindfold. Always use 3 points of contact to exit vehicles and establish strict visual check-in intervals when working in high-decibel environments. 2 workers attached a heavy metal slab to a crane, but the hook was not centered directly overhead. As the load lifted, gravity violently corrected the angle, causing the steel to swing like a pendulum. The slab struck a worker, knocking him down with crushing force. Physics is unforgiving. Always center the hook vertically over the load's center of gravity and use taglines to control movement. A crane operating near the site perimeter lost stability. As it overturned, the boom extended beyond the construction fencing, crashing down onto a passing motorbike on the adjacent road. The impact crushed the vehicle, involving an innocent member of the public. The drop zone respects no fences. Always calculate the maximum fall radius of the boom. If it overlaps with public roads or walkways, traffic must be diverted or stopped during lifting operations. Bypassing the workbench vise, a man attempted to grind a metal piece while holding it in his hand. To stabilize the load, he pulled it close to his body, where the spinning disc snagged his loose shirt. The torque instantly wound the fabric tight, causing fatal asphyxiation before he could disengage the power. Rotating tools have an appetite for loose fabric. Always clamp your work, wear tight clothing, and keep tools away from your torso. A man approached a stack of pallets propped up in a makeshift A shape. As he pulled one free, he destabilized the precarious pile. The heavy timber collapsed instantly, crushing him beneath the weight. Vertical stacking is a gravity trap. Always store empty pallets lying flat to ensure stability and prevent dangerous collapses. An operator attempted to hoist a massive load that far exceeded the crane's rated capacity. As the weight bore down, the machine was pulled past its tipping point, unable to release the cargo in time. The crane toppled forward, crashing into a twisted wreck of steel. Gravity cannot be cheated. Always verify the load weight against the lift chart before hoisting. Never rely on feel to judge stability. Ignoring basic fire safety, a man poured flammable liquid directly onto an open flame. The fire instantly climbed the liquid stream in a flashback, detonating the vapors inside the container. Engulfed in flames, he panicked and ran, tragically fanning the fire with fresh oxygen. Vapors are invisible fuses. Never add accelerants to a fire. If ignited, stop, drop, and roll immediately. Running only ensures severe injury. Investigating a malfunction, a man peered deeply into the operational zone of an automated machine. Due to his dangerous proximity and machine still was in full operation, instantly trapping him against the frame. The crushing force resulted in fatal injuries before he could be extricated. A worker performed maintenance on a compressed air tank without ensuring it was fully depressurized. The vessel, unable to withstand the structural stress while under pressure, ruptured explosively. The blast wave and shrapnel struck the worker with devastating force. Stored energy is invisible and deadly. Always completely bleed the air, leave valves open, and verify zero energy before starting repairs on any pressure vessel. A worker attempted to force open a compressed air tank mechanism using his foot, likely reacting to a stuck valve or cap. The physical impact on the pressurized vessel caused a catastrophic rupture. The sudden release of stored pneumatic energy acted like a bomb, launching the worker into the air with the force of the blast. Never fight pressure with physical force. If a valve is stuck, stop immediately. Depressurize the system completely before using proper tools to clear the jam. A crane attempted to transfer thin steel plates between trucks without using edge protection on the rigging. The sharp metal edges sliced through the cable under tension, causing it to snap mid-air. The load plummeted, crushing the bed of the receiving truck. Sharp edges destroy lifting gear. Always use softeners or padding between the load and the sling to prevent cuts and catastrophic failures. A customer entered an automatic car wash but attempted to exit the vehicle after the cycle began. Unaware of the heavy washing gantry approaching from the rear, he opened his door, creating an immediate pinch point. The moving machinery caught the door and forced it back, trapping him against the vehicle frame for a terrifying 10 seconds before an attendant intervened. Car washes are heavy industrial machinery. Drivers must remain seated with doors closed and locked until the exit signal appears. Never exit a vehicle in an active automated zone. Crowding onto a single forklift, 3 men attempted to offload heavy metal bars. When the truck moved, the overloaded machine tipped forward, dumping the cargo. Relieved of the weight, the forklift violently snapped back upright, catapulting the riders to the ground. This whiplash effect caused severe impact injuries. One seat, one operator. Never carry passengers on a forklift and strictly adhere to load capacity limits to maintain stability. During the lifting of the tower crane, a temporary lifeline anchor failed. One worker's fall protection system was attached to this failing component, dragging him off the structure as it fell. The other worker, securely anchored to a stable part of the crane, remained suspended but in critical danger. Your safety is only as strong as your anchor. Never attach fall protection to temporary bracing, moving loads, or unverified points. Always verify anchor points can withstand at least 5,000 pounds, 22.2 kilopascals. Two workers stood atop stacked chemical containers on a rail car during transport, directly violating safety protocols. The rough handling or instability triggered the volatile cargo, identified as white phosphorus, causing it to auto-ignite and explode. The blast instantly sprayed sticky, burning chemical agents and debris, leaving the workers trapped in an inferno with no escape route. Explosives and pyrophorics have zero margin for error. Never stand on hazardous freight. Strictly follow hazmat handling procedures and maintain a safe exclusion zone during transport. Without any protective gear, a man drilled directly into the base of an unsupported wall. This dangerous undercutting caused the structure to fail, instantly collapsing on top of him. A bystander's frantic attempt to drag debris away risked shifting the load, causing secondary crushing injuries. Demolition requires strategy, not just force. Always dismantle from the top down. Wear full PPE. And let trained professionals handle rescue to prevent worsening the trauma.